You know what? I can't lie to y'all. As things get going in the free agency market, right? And the Ravens ain't signed nobody. But when they finally do, right? When they finally do, I'm gonna be excited about this wide receiver room because I got a feeling. I just got a feeling that they're gonna be catching them. And they're gonna be catching them. And they're gonna be catching them. And they're gonna be catching them. Unlike Aguilar. Well, unless wait a minute. Wait. Hold up. You you said he visited today. All right, let's run that back. What is going on, good people? I'm back at it once again. DJ here from Flock Nation Speaks, your favorite Baltimore Ravens podcast that covers the best team in NFL history. If you're a Ravens fan, of course. But anywho, let's talk about the little less exciting news of the Ravens wide receiving core and additions and lack thereof additions. Oh my goodness. Let's jump into this. Let's jump into this real quick. I just want to talk about some of the free agents that were on the market, but now they've kind of been scooped up by the big head on the other teams, right? The other teams picked them up. But first, you can always watch or listen to Fly Nation Speaks on all your favorite podcast platforms and your favorites podcast platforms. That's Anchor. Anchor, goodness, I'm gonna say Anchor until I can't say it no more. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, all of them, every one of them, Amazon Podcast. There's so many podcast platforms out there, but your favorite ones, the major ones, the minor ones, the in between ones, we on all of them. But anyway, and you can watch Facebook, YouTube as well. But let's jump into these wide receivers, man, because I've been waiting to talk about this. I was excited. Right, I was excited. I think it was what last week. I was excited. Adam Thielen had got released, and I was like, it's kind of a perfect Ravens wide receiver to pick up, right? Like I felt like Adam Thielen was one of those guys where I was sitting here thinking, okay, 32, right? 32 on the verge of 33. That's like the perfect guy. Like a guy you don't really have. You don't have the type of guy that Adam Thielen is, but a guy who can teach some guys some things, right? I thought that was one of the perfect guys. Like I know a lot of people were kind of like, I don't know, I don't want, I want DeAndre Hopkins, right? I want OBJ, right? But I mean, I was like, Adam Thielen, I'd be cool with Adam Thielen and probably somebody else, and then a rookie on top of that, and then I had Bateman back in, and then maybe I had Duvernay back in, right? I was cool with those. I was cool with the options of having a couple of different people because I really do. I really do think the Ravens are one at the most two receivers away. Because we've talked about this plenty of times before, right? The Ravens are stout pretty much everywhere, and right now maybe a quarterback away, but depending on what happens with the Lamar Jackson situation. But being optimistic, I think saying that Lamar is of course going to come back this year, I think the running game, of course, we know it's going to be good. Defense, it don't even matter. You can go through every position. It don't really matter. It's going to be good. And them talking to Adrian Amos, they gonna fill the needs that need to be felt. They need to be filled. They need to be filled on the defensive side of the ball. We know this. But once again, it's the wide receiver room that becomes the topic of conversation. But I do think that the Ravens could be one receiver away. But then what slows the Ravens down is this. Rashad Bateman, coming off of a Liz Frank injury, where he had to get surgery midseason. When will he be not only 100%, but when will he even be like 80, 90%? Right? Like, when will Rashad Bateman be ready to play at the level that he can play at? Because I like Rashad Bateman a lot. I got another that's another topic for another time about Rashad Bateman and what I think about him. But I think Rashad Bateman paired with one more really good receiver. My thing was, and I've heard a lot of people talk about when we had, who was it, Bateman, Duvernay, Hollywood, right? I can't remember the last guy that they lump into that list. But anyway, um, I think Bateman and Hollywood could have been really special. Like I really do. Like I think Hollywood showed flashes of being special. I think Bateman has shown flashes of being special, and to not have either one have to put too much pressure on the other, I don't think the injuries would have mounted as much as they did. Now, albeit some of that strength and conditioning and all that, but you know, I still think even to this day, I think the Ravens are 1 to 2 receivers away, right? Because I think Duvernay proved last year that in the proper spot, there's room for him to work in the offense, right? I think Bateman has shown that he can be really good. He could like Bateman has shown he reminded me a lot of like Jimmy Smith, but on the other side of the ball, right? As soon as Bateman went down, that's when the offense kind of went a little bit more chaotic. It was like, what is going on? Like it was really Lamar magic and nothing else, right? So that's why I was thinking Thielen would have been a perfect option, right? Because Thielen's a wily old vet. He can teach Bateman a little bit of things. He can teach this rookie wide receiver that they're going to draft in the first round and not a corner. He could let them know, hey, like this, try to do this a little bit. Because Thielen is a guy who he's not the fastest guy, right? But he's aggressive going after the football, right? Like he's aggressive. He can make contested catches. He's a really good receiver. Carolina scooped him up. And man, I tell you, Carolina went from it felt like trading way too much for the number one pick to coming out here and trading pretty much exactly what they needed, or at least trading maybe more on the surface, but picking up where they needed to, fixing those issues, those some of those issues that were there, like the lack of a receiver. You fill in, swap out DJ Moore for Adam Thielen, right? Then you can still draft one too because it's supposedly a deep class, right? Add Miles Sanders to that. Like that's big. That's huge. I mean, they made a lot of good moves. I feel like have the Carolina Panthers, but Adam Thielen is another one, right? I was excited. I was like, okay, this is a good. I mean, this is a guy who the Ravens probably can get for a little bit cheaper, and it just didn't happen, right? Adam Thielen was gone. Juju was another guy where it's funny because this is one of those wide receiving classes, free agency wise, where I honestly feel this way. I feel like people think of this class as like, well, they're not the greatest receivers, but I think if you put some of these guys, like, I feel like Juju and Bateman could be a really good combination with Mark Andrews and one more probably rookie wide receiver, right? And not like a sure thing rookie wide receiver, right? I think that could be huge, right? But of course, that's not going to happen, right? So like then it's one of those things. There was Juju who was out there. There was Alan Lazard who was out there. Darius Slayton probably was another one. Robert Woods was another one too, who ended up going to Tennessee. I can't remember. I think he was on Tennessee. But okay, yeah. So he's on Houston. He's on Houston now. So I mean, McCole Hardman just got picked up today. And then the Browns, oddly enough, right? The Browns trade for Elijah Moore, I think it was, right? Which is crazy to see the Browns making moves to put talent around their quarterback on a fully guaranteed deal. Weird. I never seen anything like it. But I mean, I just find that weird because everybody's like, well, if you pay Lamar Jackson this money, then the issue is going to be you're not going to be able to surround him with talent. But the Browns are finding a way to do it. Even if you got to get guys on rookie deals, you got to give up some draft picks to get some guys on rookie deals, like a Jerry Jeudy maybe, to help and aid in that. Yes, you're going to eventually have to pay him, but you can figure that out later. You are in win now mode, not win 10 years from now mode. So that's the biggest thing that I feel like is kind of confusing to me with the Ravens right now. Like, are the Ravens in win now mode, or are they in win 5 to 10 years from now mode, 3 to 4 years from now mode, right? Because you re-sign Lamar Jackson and you grab at least just one more receiver at worst. The defense we know is going to keep you in games, right? And then the offense, hopefully this hopefully new system that Todd Monken is going to bring in, right? We hope that we see some big changes out of this system. We see some more openings out of this system, right? Like we hope that we see that. But then you gotta give Todd Monken some talent. Like I understand, and that's kind of the weird part. Like let's be honest about this, right? The weird part about the Todd Monken hire is among a couple of things, but the oddest part to me is Todd Monken did a lot with less last season. And we know the Ravens are one of those teams that try to squeeze everything out of the same lemon that they can, right? Like you you know when you go to the restaurant and you get the water, right? Some of y'all might not know. Some of y'all might not know about this, but like some of y'all know. You go to the restaurant, right? You don't want just the water. You want a little lemon water. Maybe put a little sugar in it. You want a little lemon water. But the Ravens coming out here and they squeezing that one lemon, that that one lemon till they can't squeeze it no more to get all the juice out of it, right? And then when it's gone, they're like, "Well, I don't know what to do," right? I don't understand. But see, and that's the thing. Like that's what's wild to me, right? Instead of replenishing the lemon, right? Instead of grabbing somebody else and bringing somebody else in to help out a little bit, the Ravens just do the same thing over and over and over again. And my thing is this thing about Todd Monken, right? His best receiver was a tight end last year, so of course he used him. But it's just weird because you still want to put the best talent on your team that you can, right? And if that means drafting somebody high as a receiver, draft somebody high as a receiver. But anyway, let's go back to these free agents. Let's go back to these free agents because and like I said, the more and more I think about it, the more I feel like the Ravens are going to grab a wide receiver in the first round. But also, like I still sit here and think, like, I'm hoping they can get the deal done with Lamar, so then that way, maybe they can make a trade for Deandre Hopkins, right? Maybe they can, figure out some sort of deal to get Jerry Judy or some sort of way to get OBJ, right? Because I don't think he's going to make as much money as he thought he was going to make originally. So I mean, there's some options there, but we'll talk about some of the. Let's just look and see at some of the because Noah Brown was another guy who was out there. Noah Brown's one of those guys I don't know how good he is. So it was kind of one of those things where I don't know if I felt like he was really a sure thing. Keelan Cole was another one, ended up going back to Vegas, right? So Keelan Cole was another one who made some rounds with the Jaguars a couple years ago with some of his catches, some of his acrobatics, but we'll see. I think oddly enough, right? One of the biggest receivers who was getting a huge payday from the Giants last year was Kenny Galladay. He's out there, right? Do you take that chance on a guy like Kenny Galladay? Now, here's the odd part about Kenny Galladay. How can I say this? The odd part about Kenny Galladay is he could be a decent fit, but you'd have to get Kenny Galladay to play. That's the issue. Kenny Galladay has been missing in action for like the past 3 seasons. Like since he signed with New York, pretty much, he has been missing in action since he got that big contract. So Kenny Galladay's not a guy I really want. Robbie Anderson, I wanted him last year, but I don't know if I want him this year. He ain't seemed like he been all in it either. Honestly, though, if you can get him for a cheap deal as a veteran guy, 29 years old, I don't think it's a bad idea, right? I think Robbie Anderson could come in and contribute. I think that's one of those guys. Now the guy that they brought in for a visit on what is it, Thursday? Nelson Aguilar. This one's tough for me too, right? Because we all know the issues that Nelson Aguilar had for the Eagles, right? And hands. Do we got hands? Do we not have hands? Right? Like we've seen these issues, right? We've seen them, and I think the thought process is Nelson Aguilar worth it? I think he had a pretty good season. I want to believe he had a pretty good season in New England. He did pretty good in New England the last year, and I think that's why it's weird because they didn't bring him back, but I think he had one of his better seasons in New England. Let me put it to you like that. He and Aguilar seems like the type of guy that New England would probably keep, to be honest with you. But I mean, I think he had a pretty okay season in New England. I think he was trying to bounce back a little bit, but from what I'm seeing, it won't great. I don't think Aguilar is not the guy you're looking for. He's not the guy you need, right? You need somebody better than Aguilar. You know what I'm saying? I mean, honestly, bro, like I take Julio Jones at his age right now as opposed to Aguilar. Like I just don't think that's a good move. DJ Chark, now that's a guy I could get down with. 26 years old. Has he gotten his first big wide receiver contract? I don't know if he got a big contract when he signed with Detroit. Kind of surprised they didn't keep him too, but I know of course they got Jameson Williams, who should be a little bit more healthy this season too. So I don't know. DJ Chark is a good one because I think you could get DJ Chark on a cheaper deal, and I think DJ Chark has a lot of potential, right? Like DJ Chark is probably one of those guys that could go to like Pittsburgh and be ridiculous, just because of how they develop their wide receivers. Now coming to the Ravens, but I would still like to see it, right? I'd like to see it. Randall Cobb is a Ravens type signing. I have no comment on Randall Cobb and if he should come to the Ravens, because I don't even want to speak that I don't even want to speak that out there, even though I just did. But anyway, Marvin Jones, I wouldn't be mad about. I didn't realize he was 33. I did not realize he was that old. He's been around for a minute because I remember he started with Cincy, I think, and he had a couple of good seasons in Cincy, and then went to Detroit. He must have been an older receiver coming in or something. I just don't remember him being that old, but Marvin Jones would be a good one. Like I said, going back to Julio. Julio is tough to me, right? I know last year I came on here and I was like, Julio Jones will be a steal if anybody gets him. And I still think to a certain degree he was. I don't think he had the season he wanted to have, and I think he had some, for whatever reason there was some drops that was happening. But Tampa Bay was just a dumpster fire to begin with, so nothing went as it should have went for that team anyway. Julio Jones, right? I don't know how I feel about Julio Jones. I'm going to be honest with y'all, man. Julio Jones could be a good option. It really could. Julio Jones could, honestly, though, I think Julio Jones could be, and let me say this, let me put it to you like this. Julio Jones in the right spot could be a good option, right? Julio Jones with the right amount of touches could be a good option. Julio Jones, so it's kind of like, you know how guys who are uber athletic in the NBA get older, and the best place for them to be is like a 6-man, because they can still, especially if they got injury issues, right? Because they can still do what they need to do, but they're not relied upon as much as they once were when they could stay healthy and they could kind of be be what they wanted to be, right? I think Julio is one of those type of guys. I think Julio, as kind of a specialty guy, as kind of a third down guy, as kind of a maybe second and third down guy, I think Julio could contribute for a team right now, right? I think he could. Another guy that's kind of interesting, and there's two here, like Jarvis Landry is I thought he had re-signed back with New Orleans. Jarvis Landry is kind of interesting, right? Very similar to Odell, same age range, very similar to Odell. That could be an interesting one. But I think another one that is really, because I'm looking at some of these other ones. Chris Moore and Marcus Robinson's out here. Just trying to see if there's anybody else. Marquez Callaway. Of course, you got OBJ at the bottom. T.Y. Miles Boykins out here. I didn't realize that. But another guy who seems to be very interesting to me is a guy who was a first-round pick just a couple years ago. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was injuries. I'm not sure what happened to N'Keal Harry. I honestly, and oddly enough, because I remember him going to Chicago late last year, I think at the trade deadline, if I'm not mistaken, and I thought he was going to do pretty good, but I didn't hear much out of him. But N'Keal Harry is another guy. Like, if you're gonna bring in a guy for like a depth piece, a guy who, maybe hasn't shown it yet, but might have a little bit of potential, N'Keal Harry will be a good option. Now, to be a day one starter or something like that, I don't think so. But still could be an interesting option. We'll see what they, we'll see. I think there's guys out here. Hollywood Higgins is out here. There's guys out here, and of course there's guys on the trade market too with Judy and DeAndre Hopkins. Kind of, take your pick on that one. But I think there's options out there, right? I think we getting kind of thin when it comes down to it. There hasn't been a lot of excitement when it comes to the wide receivers. And I would kind of be upset if they signed Nelson Aguilar when they could have got, honestly, like, and that's my other thing too. Like, I think I would be more upset signing Nelson Aguilar where you kind of know what he can do as opposed to bringing in a guy like N'Keal Harry or something like that, where you don't have to pay him a lot of money either, but there might be a little potential there. But we'll see what happens, right? We'll see how this wide receiver search goes, and we'll see what goes down. But anyway, as always, definitely hope you guys enjoyed. Who is your premier wide receiver target for the Ravens to grab this offseason? As long as they got the space and whatnot to do so. We'll see what happens. Right, I'm excited to see what happens. I hope they can still rebuild this wide receiver room because they said they wanted to do, and we haven't seen very many moves made. And I get some of it's because of the Lamar Jackson situation, but do what you got to do to get the deal done, and then you won't have to worry about that, right? But we'll see what happens. But as always, definitely hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys on the next one. One more time, you can watch or listen to Flock Nation Speaks on, if you want to watch, Facebook, YouTube. If you want to listen, Apple Podcast, Spotify for podcasters. I don't know if that becomes one. I have to look that up. I don't know if that becomes one avenue now, but all your favorite podcasting platforms, we will be there. But anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on YouTube, be sure to give it a share wherever you may be. It works everywhere, universal. But we'll see you guys on the next one. Until